Howdy, all you delicious people. I'm here today to review the first episode of Heels. So we have Stephen Amell, and immediately when he came out, I was like, yay! And then when supposedly his brother, who is Ace Spade, came out, I was like, boo! Boo on him! We hate that guy! Because actually, it's opposites. It's kind of fun. It's kind of a fun thing to be technically part of a crowd that is supposed to react some way, and I'm like, I'm gonna react the opposite, yay! Because just to mess with people. If anything, this episode was fun. The first episode, if you are a wrestling fan, we can see Luke Gallows or Doc Gallows in this first episode. There might be some other wrestlers kind of mixed in, especially when they have the battle royal that is to be in this episode. But yeah, I had a lot of fun with this very first episode. I would say there's going to be a lot of dialogue in here to set up who people are. I think Stephen Amell's character, who is Jack Spade, is really interesting. Like, he's not just more than just a wrestler. He is to be this wrestling company's owner, who is to all of a sudden start to see people getting snagged by other promotions or other things just starting to get on the rise. There was this bizarre commercial of this other company that obviously had TNA Impact footage. Obviously. There was just dude, that's Abyss and Samoa Joe and that's TNA Impact footage. I'm like, what the heck? Why did they take from TNA Impact? Was that the only thing where they probably could have thought hey man, this seems to be the most thing that we can kind of get away with, so let's go and take this footage from here. But hey, so technically Abyss and Samoa Joe were on this here because of archive footage or whatever they want to call it, but they're still on the show technically. Eventually, a lot of people are to have heard that supposedly Phil Brooks or CM Punk. I hate doing that. I know a lot of people that, yeah, you should have just said CM Punk, whatever. So CM Punk is not to be on this very first episode from what I saw. But what we do get is mostly just the relationship between both Jack and Ace in this episode, and that just kind of sells the price of admission for this very first episode. How you really start to see especially Ace in this episode, who is just more and more just demanding or wanting things from Jack, and Jack does just not want to deliver. Jack is pretty much just trying to say that Ace is just not ready yet. And so, and plus he has, he has to have this, building of a thing where even if Ace is a number one contender, that eventually there needs to be this build that isn't quite done yet. So, it's really kind of interesting how, they talk about kayfabe in this very first episode, and how, we have to forcibly have, Jack's character, who is separate from Ace's character, so that way it can, showcase that, they're trying to not seem in this town that this is not just, or this is wrestling is supposedly fake, but tell anybody that's gonna get freaking body slammed and elbow dropped and whatever, it freaking hurts. But the story of it is just a fabrication for the most point. And so, and really, this show kind of goes into that, where it's just to have us have Jack's character, who is kind of programming out every matchup and whatever. It's a really interesting show, especially if people want a behind the scenes kind of thing of wrestling, but want it done from a kind of an independent circuit, which But we'll get to all that when I get into spoilers. So I would say that this is a great show. Like, it is worth whatever subscription is for Stars. Like, I just don't have that kind of like money to do like subscriptions or whatever right now. So I just went through the cheapest route I possibly could, just so that way I could just be able to see this show. Um, because really, I just wanted to like check this out because I knew it was going to be good. Um, and plus, also there were so many things going on with this show. Like supposedly, like Stephen Amell, sadly enough, got like COVID during this show, and then I also heard that Stephen eventually broke his back doing some move, which I think was the coast to coach or the coast to coast, which I think we end up seeing the very like beginning of the show. I think, unless it's like a move that he just consistently does. But anyways, if people are on the fence about this show and are just like, I don't know, wrestling, really to me like this, if you liked the Netflix show Glow, you'll probably like this show Heels as well. And a lot of people like Glow. Yeah, whatever with that. Like, I actually enjoyed Glow. Glow was really fun, and I was just kind of like sad that like this show didn't have like female wrestlers. Also, it just had male wrestlers. I don't know what the time period or whatever of this show is, or like, but like, I can't wait for them to eventually also have like female wrestlers in here. And it seems like we had like one woman that's kind of wanting to do that also. So going into this, let's go into spoilers about this episode because I've kind of teed it up anyways. But man, is this just a like, it's really good. It's, yeah, like probably a lot of people are just like, yeah, I'll probably like wait till like half of the season and then I'll go and subscribe to Stars so I can binge watch or whatever. But definitely go ahead and check out this show eventually when it goes on and on, hopefully, because it's really good. Who knows? But anyways, so going into this, let's go into spoiler time. Spoiler time. It's about that time again to spoil this episode. So, well, we end up finding out that Jack Spade, who is Stephen Amell's character, seemingly is the world champion of this wrestling promotion. And so we have Stephen Amell, who is in a match, who does this coast to coast move, and eventually pins a guy to keep his belt. And so immediately we have Stephen Amell mentioning that this is his hometown, because I think they go and they do the exact same show every single week, like in the same spot, I believe. I don't think, it doesn't seem like they rotate much, but so Stephen Amell is to mention that this is his hometown and it sucks, and everybody's like, boo! And I'm like, yeah! Yay, Stephen! Yeah! I'm gonna root for the heels, and I'm gonna boo the faces, so that way we can keep the whole, like, we can have a pulverizing kind of approach to this show. So, so what ends up happening is Ace goes and scrambles into the ring, and Jack makes his way out of the ring, and so Jack is talking a bunch of crap to Jack, or Ace is talking a bunch of crap to Jack, and Jack is talking crap back, and so Ace is to say, well, F you! And so all of a sudden Jack is going back in the back, and he's like, did you hear him swear? Like he went off script. Like, he can't swear. Like, we have kids that come in here. And so eventually Jack is going to eventually like give Ace crap about that, because it's like, dude, we have kids that come to these like programs. Like, we can't cuss. So so we find out that Jack is to be the guy who is the booker or the programmer or the however you want to say it, the guy that makes all the matches and all the decisions. And so it seems like Jack is spending a lot of money uh, on this promotion. He recently is going to buy like smoke machines, and he wants to desperately buy more cameras to look to make this promotion look better. He's also going and putting several of the matches on YouTube so people can see them and people could like eventually just like, ooh, wow, like let's go and let's see this promotion, let's see it live, and so on and so forth. So Jack is to have, I guess, another promotion. Like I think it's called like F, or like it's called F something. I don't know. I'm not ready. I don't think I'm ready for whatever the other promotion's name is, but I know it starts with like an F something. But we have this other promoter that is to put on these like death matches or to put on these like blood matches, and that's the one thing that that Jack's character is to mention. It's like, hey, he's not the first person to ever invent a blood match, but you would think that he did. So eventually, Jack is to have these matches at the same arena every Sunday. And so, really, what Jack is really selling is just the story. Where, like, people could probably think that it's stale, that maybe the same people are coming in every single week or whatever. Like, I'm sure they'll probably eventually keep continuing to, like, trade people in and out, like Luke Gallows or whoever CM Punk's character will be somewhere in the show. And I know, I know he'll be in here, and I hadn't really actually searched for what his name is, and I'm not going to take that time now. But anyways, so Ace is to eventually be the hero of the town, and he has this kind of like Bullet Club like Western like thing to him where he has to like shoot out these guns and stuff like that. He has this like cool Western vibe to him. So basically he's the hero of this town, and eventually we start to see in one episode this guy who seemingly is the hero of the town all of a sudden is kind of turning to be not such a nice guy, in all honesty. So supposedly the next week's match is to supposedly be, of course, between Jack and supposedly Ace. And so Ace is to hear from his brother that Ace is not going to win the belt. He's not going to win the heavyweight belt, the world title, whatever you want to call this. And so Ace is trying to consistently negotiate to get the belt, and like he's all obviously trying to like politic his way, or he's trying to just try and get this belt because he's like, dude, like, hey, like dad had it and you have it, now I want it. And Jack is like, well, you're not ready for it yet. And so one thing that I'm trying to find is the other promotion guy, because we have another promotional guy coming in who is to eventually go and snag Ace. I'm going to have to pause here for a second to see if I can find what his name is. Wild Bill Hancock. All right, so we got that right. Luckily. So let's get into the Jack Spade stuff. So Jack Spade is to eventually go home to his wife, and so like Jack is trying to figure out how to end the show with both Ace and Jack, and so his wife is to finally just kind of like talk to Jack and mention like, hey, like, if anything, like, you need to start like really tightening your belt and start really saving some money. There's only so many coupons that we can start clipping, And also, like, Jack's wife is starting to, like, see, like, maybe that she should get a job, and Jack's like, no. Like, my mother didn't work, so you're not going to. So, but really, like, Jack's wife is just wanting for them to have money just so that way they can go and do things, like go to the movies or like just like do something fun, like just not having to like squeeze every single penny and have like just Jack's character just blow it all. And so like the whole smoke machine thing was just like Jack's wife saying, it's like, well, you know what, if you could have probably told me about the whole smoke machine thing, I probably could have found like smoke machines for a lot cheaper and it probably would have been just as good. And Jack is like, yeah, I know, but it's like, so eventually, like, uh, Jack's family is eventually heading to church, and so here's where we start to eventually like go into kayfabe and how like faces and heels can't like spend time with one another. So like especially once it's like right before a match. So Jack's family's going to church and they're like, and I guess supposedly Jack's wife is to be a singer of this church, I believe. So uh pushing on. So eventually, all these people are doing this whole get together, and so like Ace is playing around with Jack's family, and so Jack can't be around Ace. Like Jack is just in the car, just kind of sitting things out because he can't actually be around Ace and just having it be normal. Like we have one person mentioned how Ace and Jack's father, like supposedly, uh, their dad had supposedly injured himself for fake, and so like what this guy had to do was kind of just go and have like and find a wheelchair that he can just go around in for a while to make people believe it was real, that like he wasn't actually injured but he was just kind of playing it off. So like he had to go and have a wheelchair for a while but it was like trying not to break kayfabe, trying to make it like feel like everything was real. So what ends up happening is we have Ace, who's just so consumed about eventually getting this title. And so we have this one new guy that ends up coming to the ring and is kind of just this guy who actually just lands this elbow drop in this one other wrestler. And this wrestler is like, dude, that freaking hurt. And we have the one girl who's mentioning how this guy should have, like, uh, adjusted his elbow so it doesn't actually look like it lands on the guy because this guy's just new. Um, and so he's learning. But yeah, like we have Jack scripting this to the T where he's to mention like guys getting choke slammed or guys getting whatever, like everything is like programmed in. So what ends up happening is Ace is to go to this convenience store with his like with one of his friends and one of his wrestling friends, and good god, am I probably not gonna remember who the other guy is that goes with uh oh, Big Jim, I think is his name, who eventually is to want to quit wrestling in this episode. So uh we have, I think, Big Jim and we have Ace going through this convenience store, and this one clerk is to mention to Ace, it's like, hey, Ace, you can't go and steal gum. Like, obviously, you put that in your pocket. Like, we can't let you come and steal stuff in here every single time. And so Ace goes and he drops the gum right in front of this woman. And he mentions his story when she was a kid, how there was this one night that her family came over to her house, and evidently she just kept on like I guess putting away the food or whatever. Like, it's a very insensitive story. And so this girl goes on and on about her lovely dog and whatever. And so what ends up happening is Ace's family accidentally, I think, runs over this dog, or they find this dog dead somewhere or another. And so what they end up saying afterwards is that, well, I guess it's a good thing that this dog was dead, because this girl would have probably ate the dog because she was so hungry. I'm like, God, that is such an awful story. And so what ends up happening is the girl, after hearing this story, eventually runs off and cries and just like takes the rest of the day off, and I can really understand that. It's like, good God, that is such a hateful or hurtful thing to say. So eventually eventually Ace and Jack are kind of getting ready for their night. We have certain guys that are putting out tables to eventually get their merch sold. Uh, and so we start to see like certain other wrestlers that we may not see again, or we may see in other episodes. Uh, we have certain characters like luchadors and just other kind of wrestlers that are kind of selling the merch on their tables outside the venue. And so what ends up happening is Ace is to eventually go and talk to Jack, and Jack is to say, hey, like this is a small town, and word got out, like the hateful thing that, or the hurtful thing that you said to that one like register lady. And Ace is like, are you freaking kidding me? Like, are you gonna not give me the title, or are you not gonna let me win still because of that? And this is at a part where Ace has already been scouted by this other promotion, and so Ace is almost out the door anyways, where Ace is just talking to uh, Wild Bill Hancock, and like talking about how eventually this guy for 17 years supposedly used to get hit with the Bible. And so he's talking about like Jacob and all this other stuff, and just kind of like talking to Ace in the way of just kind of understanding the whole like brother dynamic of things, and how difficult it can really be, and blah blah blah. Anyway, so what eventually happens is Ace is just so upset uh, that he's still not getting the title, and he goes and like just takes off takes off all of his clothes with some girl in his locker room, and they just start going at it. And so eventually, because Ace is just so upset by his brother, just like, really, you're not gonna give me the title, like, even though I'm like, dude, I think that's the easy way of why I'm gonna freaking be out of here. Like, all he wanted was the title, and for Jack just like not giving it to him, he just got really freaking just upset about it. And so Jack is to, before he goes on to his match, he ends up going and taking some kind of drug. And I'm like, oh my God, like this guy is like broken down so much about this, where like who knows how long that this guy has just been like taking these drugs and stuff like so we start to see this guy who seemingly is like, at first, like the happiest happy-go-lucky kind of guy, and like how he has all the skill, but all of a sudden we start seeing him popping pills. I'm like, oh my God, like that's the one way to like really invest in a character. It's like, I hope he's gonna be okay. I hope he's gonna be okay. God, that freaking sucks. But yeah, so what ends up happening is Ace is to finally just tell his brother before their match. It's like, good, freaking, I'm gonna get out of here. I'm gonna be a million miles away from you, because Jack is kind of expecting for Ace to eventually take this deal and never come back to where they are, never come back to Duffy, and like Ace is pretty much right, or Jack is pretty much right about Ace. Let's just say. Ugh. Man, my words are just not where they should be today. Or right, like my words aren't where they should. Good God, why I can't even talk. My words aren't where they should be. I apologize. So going into this, we have Jack and we have Ace, and so Ace before they go out there, that's when Ace throws the fact of like, I'm gonna be a freaking million miles away from here, and you're gonna be stuck here forever until you die. And so Ace just goes and grabs Jack, and Jack goes and chokes. Like they're both choking one another out before their match even starts. And I'm just like, good God, man, it would have been crazy to just see like how like if there would have been dialogue during this whole big match, like to just see them kind of back and forth talking to one another during this match. That would have been crazy, but we didn't get that far. So what ends up happening is Jack just comes up with this masterful plan. So Jack goes out there, Ace goes out there. So what ends up happening is Jack comes up from behind Ace, German suplexes him from behind, and then quickly goes into a submission. And this is a real like submission. This isn't any fake or whatever. Like Jack in the very beginning of this episode was talking about he doesn't like submissions because a lot of the times it doesn't seem good because it seems that like that could be determined as fake and whatever. But like so Jack is really raking on Ace's arm, and so the ref is like, hey, what do I do? And Jack is just really just tearing at Ace's arm, and so Jack is like, hey, like you're gonna have to call it, ref. Like he's gonna eventually like give up. He's gonna tap. So Ace is not giving up. He's not tapping, and so eventually Jack just pulls to the referee and just says, hey, call it, ref. Like call it that he's gonna give up. And so everybody is like, what the fuck? Like, this match was like 2 moves and over. And everybody's like, what the fuck? Like, it was kind of like the TNA Impact situation between both Sting and Jeff Hardy, where Sting just got Jeff Hardy in this finishing move, took him down, and then just pinned him for the 1, 2, 3. Because Jeff was just not in the right place to do this match. So Jack goes and is to get out of the ring, and now we just see like or Ace who's just kind of holding his arm, and so we just start to have all these people just start flinging all this crap all over the match because they're like, boo, what kind of match is this? Like, I want to get my money's freaking worth, blah blah blah. And you have all of a sudden everybody hating on Ace, to where even Wild Bill Hancock is like, dude, I'm not gonna touch this kid then. Like, this kid like freaking like just blew this whole situation. And Wild Bill is like, I am deuces. I'm out of here. I'm not gonna. No. Like, this kid is now just like, he had promise, but like one match could just determine that this guy is just like, no. So Uh, so that's just how the episode just kind of like ends. In all honesty, we do have certain matches like the Royal Rumble or the Royal Rumble, the Battle Royal, where I think Big Jim is to win the Battle Royal. What does that to mean? I'm not quite sure because some matches are just matches. They don't quite like make much of sense to me. But we have this one spot where Jack and Big Jim are talking, and Big Jim is mentioning that he is going to retire after tonight because he is going to have a kid soon and he doesn't know how much longer he can really wrestle, and that he's thinking if he can go and pick up some extra shifts that'll maybe he'll maybe make up for the fact that like he's quitting. And so Jack is just like, well, okay, man, like that's what you want to do. uh we have Jack kind of thinking in his head like who he could probably get to eventually just try to trade in if like people start leaving. But you can just tell when Jack is to talk to his wife while this whole thing plays out. You can just tell like there's something wrong with him, or they're there's a spot where his wife is to mention like, hey, those cameras, like you do realize that I get notifications when you buy things, right? And Jack is like, we needed them, like I'm sorry, like we just really needed them. And so his wife is just like, well, okay, but like hey, like you're still spending, like I've already like kind of told you to kind of back off, and you're still just like, maybe Jack is a person that like that is getting to the point of like nothing is ever going to be good enough, where he's just going to blow way too much money on this company, or like something's going to horribly awry and he's just going to lose everything. uh like I'm assuming that that is that close to happening with his wrestling promotion, which is sad. But like I'm just kind of concerned where Jack's like company is heading. And like I'm starting to already see like, okay, like this guy is just like, well, we need a smoke machine, we just need like this, and then it's going to get to the point where all of a sudden like people are just going to all start to leave, and Jack is going to be like, well, like I need to figure out how to get bigger talent, and I need to figure out how to, and so like we're just going to see the dollars just spent, and like Jack is probably going to end up going broke, and man, is that going to be freaking sad. That maybe he'll have to moon Knight or Moonlight or whatever as another wrestler in some other company to desperately try and keep this one company going. Who knows? But anyways, so I think that's all I wanted to say so far about Heels. Good show. Like if anything, there might have been some parts in somewhere. I apologize about my speech or the way I talk today. uh like I've just kind of been battling these like issues with my brain lately, where it's just like the wheels aren't exactly always firing, but like when they eventually do perfectly well, like it's an unstoppable thing, but I'm just having these like brain farts lately. um so with that said, I enjoyed this show, and hopefully you enjoyed it too. I hope there's not something that I probably forgot about. But anyways, I'm gonna get out of here. Bye, buddy. Bye, buddy.